Hi everybody, it's Leela from Miss Kiss Creations. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to show you how I created this rainbow alcohol ink tumbler. Like always, all of my materials will be listed in my description below, including the brand of alcohol inks and the colors. I wanted to create this tumbler specifically in the month of June. Please just spread love and not hate. It's that simple. With all that being said, let's go ahead and get started on this tumbler. I am starting out with a 30-ounce stainless steel tumbler. I have prepped my tumbler off screen. So I sanded this down with a 180 grit sanding block, and then I sprayed and wiped it down with 91% alcohol. After I did that, I spray painted my tumbler with a flat or matte spray paint. I do recommend you spraying your tumbler with a flat or matte spray paint for this tumbler because I'm going to be adding epoxy right on the spray paint, and it's least likely for the epoxy to repel on the tumbler if you use a flat or matte spray paint. If you don't have a flat or matte spray paint, you can also paint flat or matte acrylic paint on your tumbler. The colors I'll be using are Watermelon from Tim Holtz, Sunset Orange, Sunshine Yellow, Clover, Baja Blue from Pinata, Indigo from Tim Holtz, and Purple Twilight from Tim Holtz. I am running low on my Purple Twilight, so I might have to use my Passion Purple from Pinata. And then to put over my alcohol inks, I'm going to be using Blanco from Pinata. You can use any white from any brand you have. Do keep in mind, I am not using a mixative, so I know Tim Holtz has that mixative. I have not used a mixative with this method. I know the mixatives are a lot thicker, so I am not too sure if it will work with this method. I'm going to be applying my epoxy to my tumbler. I have mixed a total amount of 30 milliliters of epoxy. That's 15 milliliters part A and 15 milliliters part B, totaling 30 milliliters of epoxy. So what I'm going to do is apply all of this epoxy onto my tumbler, and it's going to seem like a lot, and that's how it should be. So if you think you're applying too much, that's all right. We need a very thick coat of epoxy on this tumbler because we need those alcohol inks to move around and swirl around this tumbler. So I'm just adding it no specific way. I just want to make sure that I'm getting a full covered tumbler. And if some of your epoxy drips off of your tumbler, that's fine. Don't try to pick it up and put it back on your tumbler, especially if your mat looks as messy as mine. It's going to add a lot of random glitter on this cup that's not needed. So make sure you're getting the bottom, and make sure you're just placing all of this epoxy onto your cup. You want to make sure that you're still spreading this epoxy onto your cup evenly, or as evenly as you can. So you would do it just like as you would another tumbler. So I'm just going from top to bottom and bottom to top, and then I'm making sure that I'm getting the very bottom of this tumbler. Having a lot of epoxy on this tumbler is very, very important, so please keep that in mind, because a lot of times people will do this method and then their inks won't swirl, and then they'll contact me asking me why the inks actually separated, and one of the reasons is always because you're adding too thin of a coat of epoxy. Another tip is once you apply this epoxy to your tumbler, you do not want to heat this up. Whenever you heat up your epoxy and you apply that ink directly on that warm or hot epoxy, the epoxy tends to heat up the alcohol inks and it tends to separate the colors, and so you don't get that nice swirl. You kind of get those patchy looking colors on your tumbler. If you do end up heating up your tumbler just to get rid of the bubbles, make sure after you heat it up, you let it cool down. Like I said, it's going to have those colors really spread and not make that swirl effect if you have hot epoxy on your tumbler. I now have all of my epoxy on my tumbler. I'm going to switch gloves and move on with the next step. What I'm going to do next is add my ink to my tumbler. I have a total of 7 colors, so I'm trying to add the colors as evenly as I can, but it probably won't turn out that way, but we'll see what happens. So I'm going to start with my watermelon, which is my red at the top, and then move my way down the tumbler with the rainbow. So you're not going to be able to see these colors at first once you add them to the black tumbler. That's what makes these tumblers so unique. So what I'm going to do is kind of eyeball this and just add some red, and then I'm going to be adding the orange next. So I know y'all can't see this and I can barely see it myself in person, but I'm just going and I'm adding drops of the rainbow all down the tumbler. And if I do it the correct way, it's going to look evenly distributed around the tumbler, but we'll see what happens. So I just added the yellow. I'm going to work on the green. And do keep in mind, a lot of these colors are going to fade whenever I add that white over it. So if you have kind of a darker green, once that white kind of adds to that ink, that's whenever the ink's going to kind of lighten up. So now I'm on to my blue and I'm trying to see the areas that I haven't added the ink to. And now to my indigo, just below the blue. And one more. And then my last color is going to be the purple Twilight. And you can see, I can see that that looks yellow whenever I'm adding it to the cup, so it's pretty cool. So I'm going to add that on the bottom as well. Let that kind of drip down. And now that I have my colors on my tumbler, even though you can't see them, they're on there. I'm going to go in with my Blanco, which is my white. Again, it's not going to be that mixative. It's just white alcohol ink. And then I'm going to apply it around the tumbler. This is whenever you're going to see those colors really pop and you're going to see that rainbow pop through. So I'm just going to add drops around the tumbler and you can see those colors peeking through. And I'm just going to continue to add them all around the tumbler until I am satisfied. Make sure I'm getting the bottom. You can see those colors starting to pop. This is how it's going to look at first. Do not panic. It's going to look like a bunch of cells on your tumbler. Don't worry, as your tumbler spins around, as it takes time to move, the epoxy is going to move. It's going to all swirl together. So again, I'm just adding these random white spots around the tumbler. Now, it might be obvious, but I still want to explain it to you. Any areas that you don't add the ink to, the colored ink, whenever I add that white, it's just going to be white. So this area right here with the green, or like this area right here with the red. I didn't add any ink to that area, so that's why it shows up white. But for me, that doesn't bother me. If it does bother you and you want all the little swirls to be a color, what I do, or what you can do, is you can take that color, so let's say this red, and I can just add some red right over that white, and then it's gonna eventually swirl together. So if you like the whole colors and white mix, then you can do it that way, or you can add more colors on top of the white to really make this tumbler the true rainbow and then have the no white peeking through. I like to allow my tumbler to spin on the turner and just let it kind of move around. You can already see all these colors kind of thinning out and you can see a swirl starting to happen. And then I go around and I try to just place the white in small little places just to fill in the tumbler so it's not too black, and then you can actually see that rainbow effect. What I like to do is take my cup turner and spin it the other way. And that way it allows that tumbler to kind of move in a different direction. It allows the epoxy to kind of start transitioning into a different direction, so it makes a really cool swirl effect. So I'll play with it back and forth. I'll let it spin clockwise and then counterclockwise. So if you have seen my other tumbler tutorial with my black and blue tumbler, and I also did a red and black tumbler, that's when I took off the cup from the cup turner and I kind of placed it upright and then upside down. I'm not going to be doing this for this tumbler because I want to keep that rainbow effect, so I want to keep those colors kind of separate. I don't want to start mixing the colors because I want to see the rainbow and the transition of the rainbow through the top to the bottom of the tumbler. You're just going to allow your tumbler to spin on the cup turner like I'm doing now. You can add a little bit of heat. I'm going to add a little bit of heat just to show y'all, because I know I get a lot of questions about how much heat you can add or cannot add to these cups. So I'm going to show y'all just so y'all can see how little heat that I add, because you're going to start to see your epoxy really thin up, and then you're going to start to see those colors to mush. So you don't want to apply too much heat, because you don't want those colors to mush together and create kind of a brown or like a really dark color. I have my Wagner Heat Gun that I purchased from Lowe's. I did purchase this Wagner Heat Gun for about $20. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold my heat gun about 10 inches away from the tumbler. It's so far away that it doesn't even get in the camera. So this is about 2 inches. So I'm about 10 inches away. I'm going to be using my heat gun on high, only because I do high and I do it very quickly, and I do it for about 10 to 15 seconds, and I go back and forth on the tumbler, and that gives it enough heat for it to loosen up and the epoxy starts swirling. So I tried to change the angle of the camera so y'all can see how far away my heat gun is from my tumbler. So I have it about, like I said, 10 inches. So I'm going to turn it on high and then quickly move back and forth around my tumbler. Now that I've applied a little bit of heat, you're going to start seeing my tumbler kind of swirl. You're going to start seeing the colors swirl a little bit. And as I watch my tumbler, I still have my white alcohol ink on hand, because I still add little areas of white alcohol ink over the design just to make those little areas pop more. So what I do from here is I monitor my tumbler. I'm going to let it spin on the cup turner for 30 minutes. After 30 minutes, I'm going to check in with it and I'm going to show you how much it has changed. You're going to see more swirls. It's not going to be these clumpy cells, I say, on your cup. It's going to have that nice swirl rainbow effect. So I'm going to let this sit for about 25-30 minutes and I'll see y'all soon. Hi guys, I'm back with my tumbler. It's been spinning on the cup turner for about 25 to 30 minutes. I did add more white over some areas that I wanted the colors to pop more, and you can see the difference in how it looks now. There's some parts that are really swirly, and then there's other parts that are kind of clumped together. But it makes such a cool design, and it is not finished curing, so it's going to look a little bit different once this cures. So as I was letting it spin for my 25-30 minutes, I do this about every 5 minutes or so. So I change the rotation of my turner, and that gives it a nice little swirl. What I'm going to do next is let my tumbler spin on the cup turner for about 4 hours. After 4 hours, I'm going to turn off my cup turner and let it air dry or air cure on the cup turner for about another 20 hours. So I want a total drying time of 24 hours. I'm going to let this dry or cure, and then I'll see y'all in about 24 hours. Welcome back, everybody. My tumbler is completely cured. It's been over 24 hours since I have let it air dry or air cure, and look how beautiful this tumbler turned out. Like I say with all of my tumblers, make this tumbler your own. So if you want these little blobs of color to swirl more, then add a little bit more heat than I did. But be careful with the heat. Like I reminded you before, I don't want the colors to smush together and make like a weird brown. I like whenever the look looks kind of separated and you could still see the black in the background. Now that my tumbler is completely cured, we can go ahead and add a decal, any decal you like, anywhere around this tumbler. And then I would add about 15 to 20 milliliters of epoxy over this 30-ounce tumbler to seal that decal in. After that epoxy is completely cured or air dried, that's when I'll go ahead and clean up the inside. If you need any help with how to clean up the inside of your tumbler, I do have a list of help videos in my description below. Be sure to check out that specific video. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed creating it. And if you did, please be sure to give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more tumbler and craft videos. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.